Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders and ask them questions about their business stories and dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Tim Swindle to the show. Tim is the co founder of Paddlesmash. Paddlesmash is a fast growing outdoor game that combines elements of pickleball and round net into a fun, easy to learn backyard sport. And today I'm going to ask Tim a few questions about his entrepreneur journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to grow his business. Now, before we dive into this interview, if you enjoy this content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And for more interviews like this, please visit treptalks.com. And with that, Tim, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today at Trep Talks.
Hi, Sushant. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, really appreciate your time. So let me ask you about a little bit about yourself. So I did a little bit of research, and seems like you have been a serial entrepreneur, specifically in the toys industry. So maybe you can share a little bit about your background, some of the things that you've done in the past, and how did you come to this paddle smash idea game?
Sure. I was actually a software entrepreneur for prior to getting into the toy and game space. I had teamed up with some guys I went to University of Illinois with, and we were doing a sales software. And while doing that, we had the idea for this board game that I came up with. It was called Utter Nonsense, and this was just a game that we had been playing with friends and family for a number of years that was not a commercial item. It was just this thing that we had put together just on pieces of paper. And so I read an article about another big popular game called Cards Against Humanity. And they had an article in Inc. magazine that talked about kind of how they'd come to fruition and their rise and the roadmap that they took to get to get where they were. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. I think there's a game that I have, that one I just mentioned, that I think I could turn that into an actual product and take it to market. So I pursued that as a nights and weekends project. It was bootstrapped. So I was kind of doing my day job of the software entrepreneur, which was a very different, it was venture backed, burning a lot of capital, running big teams, and very stressful. And then I had this idea for a board game on the side and decided to launch it kind of on my own. And out of nowhere, it ended up kind of taking off. Got picked up by Target here in the US and a number of other major retailers kind of right away. And so I was like doing that as a nights and weekends, doing my day job. And then ultimately, we were able to sell the software company to LinkedIn. So that was good. And I
Wow.
decided to run with the card game company, the board game company, and ultimately grew that to a few $1 million in revenue and a few different games. And then one of the bigger toy game companies, that's a private equity backed company called Play Monster. They reached out about acquiring us, and I decided to sell that company as well. So with that, I kind of saw two very different styles of building a company, and I definitely gravitated more towards the toy and games. Again, it was bootstrapped. I was working for myself mostly, and what I was doing was fun too, right? I mean, bringing games to life is very rewarding, really rewarding for me, and so I like that idea of bringing fun to life. And so yeah, so I've stuck with that and have since launched, other products. And the main one right now is Paddle Smash, as you mentioned.
I'm very curious. So you started that business while you were running a software company. Was it that you were bored in your day job, you decided, I'll start this passion project on the side, or was it just that you saw an opportunity and you just didn't want to let it go?
More of the latter, I would
Okay.
say. And I don't know, maybe I'm like a glutton for punishment. There's things that I think about a lot. And if I can't shake it, I have to get it out of my head. And I just felt so strongly that the game that we had played was a winner. And I was like, the world needs to have this. And it would just drive me crazy if I didn't bring it to life. And so at least I could have said, all right, I tried. whatever happens, happens, you know. So yeah, it was more of that. I had to see it come to life.
Do you consider yourself more of like a born entrepreneur? Because it seems like, you, I mean, you are entrepreneurial. Like you see ideas and you want to bring them to life. Um,
Mhm.
do you have any thoughts on like yourself as someone who is an entrepreneurial person versus someone who's like just working at a corporate company or someone? Like, what's different about you?
Sure. You know, my dad was an entrepreneur. I mean, he worked for himself for most of his life. So I think I just saw that growing up and figured that's maybe what you do. I will say, you know, my first thing I did when I was like probably 12 years old, I started a golf teaching class,
Hmm.
and I would put up, you know, little cards, create little flyers, and put them at the local 9-hole course that I live near, and you know, offer up lessons to littler kids than me. So I started to get a taste for it from a very young age, and my parents certainly like encouraged that. And I don't know, I will say I don't think I'm a good fit for kind of the corporate lifestyle. I like doing lots of different things all day. That's part of being an entrepreneur. It's like some days I've got my sales hat on, my marketing hat, my production hat, my logistics hat, my accounting hat, um, my product development hat. So there's just, you know, all these different things that you get to touch on a daily basis being an entrepreneur that I find a little bit more interesting than if I was just trying to go in and hammer phones as a salesperson all day at a, you know, at a corporate job. But it's not without its risks, obviously, and you know, it's not for everyone. And there's good days. It's very peaks and valleys. There's a lot of peaks and valleys in being an entrepreneur. So, um, yeah, to answer your question specifically, as far as like whether it's like you're born with it or not, I know Mark Cuban believes pretty strongly like you either have it or you don't. He was like,
Hmm.
you know, don't take an entrepreneurship class in college. Like if you have to take an entrepreneurship class, then you don't have it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but I'll just say for me personally, it seems to fit my personality well.
I think, I mean, the more I talk to entrepreneurs, the more I believe that, entrepreneurship is like a little bit mindset, a little bit skill set development. So some people get the mindset from like, you being a child of an entrepreneur. So, that's automatically passed down. Some people are kind of born with it. And then, skill set is, some of the business skills that you build, maybe starting off small and then learning it over time. But I think in your case, it's it's rare that I don't know, rare, but like you've been successful in multiple different ventures. So I think that has some people do one thing, but to be able to do it again and again, I think that's even rare.
Well, thank you. I don't know. There's things I've done that haven't worked out. So
Okay.
I don't just sit here and hit home runs.
We'll talk about failures in a little bit. Um, talking about Paddle Smash, um, I did a little bit of research and I found that the concept was developed by someone else, but you took the prototype and you kind of commercialized it. You brought it to market. So can you talk a little bit about that story of why this idea kind of seemed interesting to you, and what was the process of bringing it to market?
Sure. So, my business partner and I, Scott, he is a big pickleball player. And Scott, by the way, how I know Scott is going back to my original board game. He owned a series of retail stores, and he was the first retailer to carry my game. So that's how Scott and I got to know each other. Ultimately, kind of went off and did our own thing. Sold our companies independently, and we just really liked working together and wanted to do something that we could work on, yeah, as a company, like basically build a company together. And he's really big into pickleball, and he was like, you know, man, it'd be nice if we could kind of catch this trend that's happening within pickleball, but do something that's unique and different, kind of tangential to pickleball, but not just another paddle or ball or net or something. So we'd had this kind of brainstorming session, and not 2 weeks later, we were introduced to this gentleman, Joe Bingham, who's an inventor. He's a structural engineer by trade, and he's also like a tinkerer. He's got some router and CNC machine in his garage and just likes to build stuff. And he's the father of 7 kids, 6 of them are boys, and the whole family used to love playing spike ball. They are kind of over it now, and the whole family now plays pickleball. And so he was like, I don't have the money to build a pickleball court in my backyard, but could I combine those two concepts together? And so that's what he did. And he created a very rough prototype, that was, what is now Paddlesmash. And he didn't know what to do with it, though. He had built this game, tons of neighbors and friends, and whatnot, enjoyed playing it, but he didn't know what to do with it. He was not an entrepreneur. And so we were introduced to him, and once we saw it, we played with it. We took it to some pickleball courts to test it out, and we basically both agreed that this was something we wanted to pursue. So that's what happened.
And in terms of intellectual property, like, did you have to, when he shared the idea or the game with you, like, did you have to sign some sort of a non-disclosure agreement, or like some sort, where you can't just take that idea, tweak it a little bit, and create your own thing? Because I understand that you have some sort of a revenue arrangement with the creator of this game.
Sure. We were introduced through like a pretty good mutual friend, so I think it was like a trustworthy introduction on his behalf. So I've never asked him that, if he would have otherwise made us, sign an NDA. I'm personally not a huge fan. They're very hard to enforce, and it's hard to prove, if something was created, before you ever saw it and whatnot. So no, we did not sign an NDA. He didn't have any protection around it, but that's, something that maybe he trusted us, because yeah, we went and then pursued a patent, which we now have. So the arrangement with him, just to kind of put a bow on that, is he gets a royalty. So we basically like took the concept. He in return gets a royalty. So every quarter he just gets a check. It's like mailbox money for him. So
Mhm.
it's really nice. He's happy. He's very happy with his arrangement. And so Scott and I then took what he had, which was like a very rough prototype, and then had to go and really take it from, I mean, start over from scratch essentially. Like we had the gist of what it was, but it was not, it was like 60 pounds. It wasn't portable. We had to recreate it so that it was like mass producible, lightweight, retail ready at a price point that's appealing. So, that was about a year-long process of research and development and design to get it to a point where we could ultimately take it to market.
And is that process, so I mean, somebody could have an initial idea of a product, but to bring it to market, like to go from that product prototype to like a functional product that you can sell in the market, is that process something that you did it yourself, or did you hire like product designers, people who maybe are expert in that kind of field?
Mhm.
Like, what would your advice be for
It
others?
depends on the complexity of it. So we just worked on a new one that we're going to be launching, a new game that we're launching next year. It's kind of like this modern twist on cornhole, the game cornhole where you throw bags. Like I'll just say it's like a modern twist on that. That one we were able to kind of do ourselves. There wasn't really a lot of like engineering involved, but for Paddlesmash there was. So it's an injection molded plastic base, pretty complicated to figure that whole system out. So long story short is yes, we did hire an industrial design and engineering firm to help us take what he had of his rough prototype and turn it into what is now the retail version.
Now, I mean, games and board games industry is pretty interesting. What have you learned about this industry and your customers? Um, is this something that people are still interested in, like board games or these kind of outdoor games, or is this something that comes and goes? It's like a seasonal kind of a thing. Um,
Mhm.
because especially with board games, I would assume like now that everybody has access to iPads and things like that, are people even worried about like physical board games?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact stats because I'm not currently really doing many board games, but it's a growing market. I think there's actually this kind of like resurgence of board games kind of back to a simpler time because people are learning about the risks of so much screen time and being on the phone and iPad and whatnot. And so it's this movement of going back to human interaction, looking people in the eye, not just burying your head in your phone. And that's, board games are what provides that value. So, so that's to answer that question. For us in this game, Paddlesmash in particular, it is very seasonal. So, it's an outdoor game. So obviously you up in Canada, your season is very short for when this can be played. I mean, we sell to a lot of schools and it can be played indoors as well, but it's really intended to be more of like at the beach, at the park, backyard, that type of a thing. So it's a seasonal item, and that's something we've had to kind of get used to, is that there's these major peaks and valleys, and how are we kind of ramping up when we need to with production, with inventory, with marketing, and then kind of cutting that off when it's in the shoulder seasons and it's quiet, and we don't want to be throwing good money after bad. So yeah, that's been a learning lesson for sure. And then just in general, I would say it's a cyclical, just like a lot of things, real estate. I don't know, like kind of pick a market. It really exploded during COVID because people kind of had to be outside and doing things. So our outdoor market for games was massive and we were not there for it, maybe in a good
Mm-hmm.
way, um, because we launched after that. But so yeah, I think then it kind of comes off of a little lull, which we're maybe still in right now, but we don't really know any different. We've been seeing really good success year after year, and we're growing at a really nice clip. But just kind of talking to some of our retail partners and whatnot, it just feels like the outdoor games market is a little bit of a lull right now, but it always kind of comes back. Just like I said, like real estate or any market in particular.
Now, when you launched this business, can you talk a little bit about, early traction? How did you launch it? Was it direct to consumer? And did you see an instant uptake from the market?
Our plan was to go direct to consumer initially, so we did. We launched on Amazon. We launched on our website. So the plan was run social media, run ads, generate sales that way and awareness that way. We did, though, reach out to some of the bigger retailers here in the US, Dick's Sporting Goods, Shields, Academy Sports, and just knowing their buying cycles they're typically 12 to 18 months before you see the product in the stores. And
Hmm.
we were just like, we don't want to wait another year, let's say, to potentially, be pitching them. So while we were still basically at the prototype phase, we reached out kind of blindly or coldly on LinkedIn, and we're able to get in touch with some buyers and actually get meetings with them. And then, much to our surprise, they ended up all taking in the item. So we did launch at retail very shortly after our direct to consumer launch.
And do you find that you have better traction in retail, brick and mortar versus like direct to consumer?
Direct to consumer is probably 80% of our sales.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's partly the price point. So we're around $200 US dollars. And for the category, that's on the high side. So if you look at it compared to say Spike Ball, that's roughly $70. So we're just kind of at a higher price point. It is what it is. We've tried to make it for less, but we can't.
hmm.
So it's a couple big, very big pieces of plastic and this net system and four paddles and two balls. So there's a lot there. And once it's once you undo it and set it up properly, it looks like a $200 item, but I think maybe on the shelves It's all folded up really nicely into like a kind of call like a small briefcase.
Hmm.
And so I think for the non-educated consumer, just seeing it on shelves, it maybe just doesn't do as well. Whereas online, we've got tons of videos and different things that people can see of how the game is played and whatnot. And I think that they're able to understand the value a little bit more than folks can just seeing it on shelves. For now, I think once we get going, there's this idea within games that the games are naturally viral because in order for you to play Paddle Smash or any game, typically, you have to have friends to play with. And so in our case, like if somebody buys one, they're going to take it to their backyard barbecue or party or whatever and introduce it to their friends and teach them how to play. And so, our goal right now is to kind of get that viral flywheel effect going. And ultimately, we think that will be our most powerful marketing channel.
Yeah, I mean, word of mouth is the best for this one because to a certain extent, I guess the person has to see how the game is played. It looks fun. How do you? I mean, so I would think that social media would work well in terms of making it visual and fun. Do you find that to be the case? Like a lot of people come to your website through your social media channels, or are there other ways you're marketing it?
I'd say that's a big one for us. Yeah, we've gone viral now, I don't know, a bunch of times. I mean, we're probably north of 75 million views on social media. Um, so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, these are all just very powerful channels for us to post content, and we're fortunate that the game is very visual and it's just an interesting thing to watch, and so it catches people's attention. It's a new game, it's a new concept, and I think that those are characteristics that I think help us. And so, yeah, we invest in and lean in heavily to social media marketing.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about I know you briefly mentioned manufacturing and there's the plastic and all these things. Can you talk a little bit about your manufacturing processes and um, yeah, how do you bring it? Is US your biggest market?
US is our biggest. We're now in roughly 40 or 50 countries. We did up until the tariffs took place. We manufactured in China. We
Mhm.
have a world-class, fantastic manufacturing partner by the name of Longshore. They've been around for a long time in the toy and game industry, and they kind of saw the writing on the wall of what was happening, and so they got ahead of it a little bit and were able to open up a factory in Vietnam, which is where we now are doing our manufacturing. So those units have just started coming across. So traditionally or historically, the game was manufactured in China. Now it's going to be Vietnam, and we've looked at trying to build it in the U.S. and Mexico, and it's just not feasible. We wouldn't be in business if we had to manufacture in the U.S.
But tariff is now a global issue, right? Like even if you make it in Mexico or I don't know if Vietnam, are you still tariffed or
We are, but it's less.
okay.
Yeah, so we kind of minimized. We had looked at actually we were close to going to India. Um,
But
and
even
thank
India is
goodness,
now
yeah,
50% or
now they're in
something.
the crosshairs, right? And so that would have been really bad if we ended up going to India. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough environment right now for importers. We don't really know we're safe. It's like we made the move to go to Vietnam, not thinking that they would really be impacted, and then they were too. So it feels like nowhere is safe, which makes it hard from a planning perspective.
Yeah, it almost seems like that's the new reality, right? Like at least in this administration. I mean, who
Hmm.
knows if the new administration comes and maybe keep everything status quo. But from a cost perspective, like making it in the US I mean, that will be even more expensive, right?
Yes, yeah. Just we've looked at it, and it doesn't. I mean, the pricing we got was more than our retail pricing,
Wow,
so
okay. Yeah.
it's not feasible.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not the infrastructure. Um, I know you were on Shark Tank, and I also saw that you had a lot of other PR exposure as well. Can you talk a little bit about, it seems like you had a PR strategy, or I still have a PR strategy. Um, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to kind of get different PR exposure and maybe a little bit about your Shark Tank experience as well?
Sure. So with Shark Tank, we were at a conference out in New Jersey for camps. And Scott and I, when we go to these shows, we wear these kind of funny 70s style retro tennis retro outfits with like really short shorts and a headband. So I don't know, we just try to have fun with it. And the comments we kept getting were, I was like, you guys are great. You got to go on Shark Tank. And we're like, okay, okay. And we on the way home from that, I got an email from one of the producers asking us if we would like to apply. And so we were like, well, this is interesting. So we did. So we went through the application process, and so that was in March. We launched in October of 22, and then that was in March of 23. So like 5 months later, they had contacted us. And then we went out to LA to shoot in June. And then that episode aired in October of 23. So pretty much a year from launch is when we aired on Shark Tank.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a great experience. We are grateful for it. I don't know who edited our episode, but I owe him a lot of thanks because they take, you're out there for 35 minutes roughly talking to the sharks, going through the whole pitch. And there's times where I'd say we didn't sound like we knew what we were talking about, or things didn't maybe go as planned, and they cut that all out. I mean, we were very happy when we walked off the stage. We was like, all right, that went well. But certainly the editing team made us look very good. So I'm grateful. And yeah, so that was awesome. We did a deal with Mark Cuban and Robert Herjavec. As you may have heard, a lot of deals they get done as handshakes on air, and then you go through due diligence afterwards. And that was the case with us. And we ultimately decided that it wasn't the right fit, so we actually didn't go through with our deal. So we made the deal on air, but then it didn't actually follow through after the fact. But it was great because we were able to get the exposure of the show. I think it goes out to like roughly 8 million people or something like that. And we certainly saw a massive spike in sales leading
Oh.
up or, as soon as it aired and afterwards, and it continued to open up other doors. And so, we've been on, all of the morning shows, Good Morning America, uh, you know, things like that, Entertainment Tonight. I mean, we've been on quite a few shows, and it always helps just the fact that, we had that Shark Tank airing. People could kind of like see us, see the product on TV, get a good idea for just how it does, and then that gives them, I think, the comfort to want to work with us as well. So
Yeah, I watched that Shark Tank episode as well, and it did come across as very fun, and it was uh, quite smooth, the whole process. I guess, the last moments where you were talking to each other, you put the paddle on your faces. Were you just saying, let's just do the deal, and then we don't have
that's
to go through?
basically what we were, yeah, because we had a whole strategy involved, like more episodes air that got deals that don't. And so we were just like, let's go get a deal. That was our goal. And we kind of knew that if we didn't really love the terms of it, there would be the opportunity to, not follow through. I mean, we wanted it to work, I'll say, but it was just the terms of the contract were so not in our favor. Um, but yeah, we do that was that little conversation where we're like, should we do it? Should we not? Let's just do it.
But it's such a great opportunity for businesses, right? Like you get so much exposure
Yes,
for not just for
massive.
the business, but for like, other opening up other opportunities and so forth. Plus, I'm sure like every time they air it, like even reruns, you probably get a boost from
Right. I have nothing more to add. You're right.
it. Can you talk a little bit about your fulfillment, warehousing, fulfillment, and shipping strategy. I know you were talking about the weight of the product, and that's always an issue in the direct-to-consumer space.
Hmm.
Um, how heavy is this item, and like, can you talk a little bit about your, warehousing, fulfillment, shipping?
Yeah. So we do work directly with Amazon. So a lot of our sales go through Amazon and we ship directly to the warehouses and then they kind of handle fulfillment for all of our Amazon orders. And then we have a warehouse and fulfillment partner, Buskey Logistics. They're fantastic. They have warehouses all over the country. Ours specifically are in Northern California and Southern Wisconsin. And we also have one with them in Canada, in Windsor. And so, yeah, so, we for our orders for our retailers, for our direct to consumer orders through Shopify and whatnot, those all get fed to the various warehouses, and then they do fulfillment for us. So our game for the main game is like 20 pounds shipping weight, and then it's roughly 16 pounds once you take it out of the box and all of the packing material and everything. So the game itself, in its case, with the paddles and balls and everything, is roughly 16 pounds. And then the shipping weight, though, is like 20 pounds.
Hmm.
Um, so that's on the heavy side, and the box is fairly big, roughly 32 inches by 20 inches by 6 inches. So it's a big box and it's expensive to ship. So yeah, that's something that we're always trying to struggle with a little bit, or we're always trying to negotiate our rates, I should say.
So let me ask you this. Like, I know you said that you're now working on this different game to launch a different game. Um, is this space like after doing all this work? I mean, there's so many different costs involved, and of course, there's always risk with everything, tariff and all these things. Do you think that it's worth it to be in a product-based toy business category where I'm sure there's a lot of big players as well, and um, or was it better like when you were in the software business? Of course, there's much better profit margins. Like, what are your thoughts
Mhm.
about this product-based business in general?
Yeah, I mean, certainly right now it's tough. I would say, just because of the tariffs, and that's really the only reason that makes it tough in that regard. We've basically seen, a big chunk of our profits just now are being paid in taxes. Um, so you could make a recency bias claim that, it is a tough one. I could put a spin on that and say that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for everyone. So, from a competition standpoint, I don't think there's going to be a lot of new entrants in the space or maybe people exiting the space. So it's kind of like, hey, if you can stick around, maybe you're one of the few left standing. Where now with software, especially with AI, everyone and anyone, regardless if you have funding or not, can create software, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think from a competitive standpoint, software has gotten way more competitive, than the space that we're in. And yeah, I mean, I lived it, and this is for me, a better kind of lifestyle business. I mean, I think with software, again, it's trying to really hit that home run out of the park. And with what I do now, not only is it very fulfilling and fun, but it's financially rewarding, and it's something that I control, along with Scott, of course, my own destiny.
Mm.
And I just find that to be a little bit harder to do if you've got a big board of directors and you've raised a bunch of capital and you have people that are telling you what to do. And that's, partly why I wanted to be an entrepreneur, is that I want to work for myself. And so, as a largely bootstrapped company like we are now, we have that flexibility and freedom, which we really value.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And in a way, given that your product is large and all these things, it's probably a competitive advantage for you because, a regular person copycat is just too difficult to manage the whole thing. Like, do you see other copycat businesses? I mean, even though I think you have patents and trademarks and things like this, do you see
Hmm.
anyone else creating like a similar copycat product in the market on Amazon?
Yeah, we do. With
Oh yeah.
success, you're going to get copycats. That's just the way it goes. So yeah, that's the tough thing with patents is you can get them. They're very expensive to get, and we do. We have a fantastic patent, but they're really difficult to enforce and they're expensive to enforce. So if somebody wants to rip you off, and typically it's firms that are kind of professional rip-off artists and copycats. And so we have one right now. They've taken ours and kind of bastardized it and put a net as the bottom surface as opposed to our hard plastic, which of course makes it less expensive and lightweight, but the playing experience is
Hmm.
shitty, if I'm being honest, So,
Hmm.
but they make it look like ours and they're piggybacking our success. And, they've in turn come out with this cheap knockoff that doesn't play as well. So, there's been some that we've been able to knock off, that we've been able to take down very quickly. Um, there's others that we have not, but we're currently in legal battles with one big group in particular, and we'll see. I think we feel pretty good about it, and we'll hopefully by the end of the year we'll have some clarity on if we were able to get them to go away.
I mean, it's it's so sad that like you put so much work and effort into something, and then
Yeah.
somebody comes and just copies you and makes it a little bit
Yeah.
cheaper.
That's why when you said about, the NDAs, I laugh a little bit. I get that a lot of like people want us to look at their products and give them feedback and they want to sign an NDA. And I'm like, the NDA, you need that once you're already in the market and popular because that's the only time you're going to be ripped off is once you've already proven that there's a market for this and you've created, the awareness of that given idea or that product or whatever. Nobody's going to rip you off when you just have an idea. Everyone has an idea. That's not
Mhm.
worth anything, you know. Um, so that's my 2 cents
So
on
these copy artists, I mean, their name should be copypreneurs, right? Like they, their
copywriters.
whole
Yeah, their
their whole
whole
idea.
business, their like business model is basically, yeah, wait till something gets popular and then find a way to engineer it for less money and make it a crappier product. And that's the idea, and confuse the customer.
Can you talk a little bit about your team? Yeah, who's supporting this business? Are you
Mhm.
working mostly with contractors? Do you have in-house team?
A little bit of both. We have, I mean, obviously Scott and I kind of running the day to day, along with another gentleman named Ian, who is kind of our community development manager. He does a lot with schools. He's a former PE teacher, and so he's going around to different school events and functions and conferences and camps and things like that, and maybe doing a little more of like the grassroots community building. We have someone on our team, Jessica, that manages our social media. She kind of does two things, social media / PR outreach.
Hmm.
We have fractional CFO, Greg. He's a former partner at a big toy, or what was a very popular outdoor game called Can Jam. And he's created his own CFO accounting, fractional firm. So
Hmm.
we have agencies that we work with on the Meta and Facebook advertising side. Same thing with our Amazon side of things. I mentioned we've got Busky for logistics. So yeah, I mean it's mostly contractors. We've kind of built that by design. To be honest with you, is Scott and I, we are trying to build a lifestyle business. We don't necessarily want to manage big teams, and so everyone works remotely and we can work remotely. I'm planning on moving our family to Spain next year.
Oh.
That's part of the business model is that we can, run this from anywhere in the world.
Talking about lifestyle business, do you, I mean, it sounds like you kind of reached um, the dreamland of entrepreneurs, right? Where you're working a little bit and then you're able to do the things that you want to do or live where you want to do, like as you are doing in Spain. Um, do you feel like this is like, I mean, you've arrived at what the entrepreneur's dream
Nirvana.
is?
I've achieved Nirvana. Um, no, I don't know. I mean, I'll say, I've been at this for a long time. So, my first entrepreneurial with the software, I mean, that was 15 years ago, sold it roughly 10 years ago. Um, So it's taken a long time to kind of get to this point of knowing what I'm doing with setting it up like this. So this didn't just happen overnight. This was very much by design. But yeah, I would say, the kind of buzzword or cliche of like quality of life, I have a young family. I'm able to spend a lot of time with them, take my kids to school, that type of a thing. If I ever decide I want to take an afternoon off, I can do that. That being said, there's also no one else that's kind of running the ship if I'm not or if Scott's not. So it's one of these like double-edged sword, maybe. It's like while you have the flexibility to do whatever you want, you also need to always be on to some degree. So, I do find myself not extensively, but like I'm working a lot of weekends, a lot of times it's maybe checking in on customer service issues, things like that. And just trying to like stay on top of things so I don't wake up Monday morning with this big inbox full of stuff. But
Hmm.
so it's this balance. It's like in no sense I'm working when I want, but I'm also always working. Uh, so it works
Makes
for
sense.
me.
Um, I'm very curious. So you have a partner, a co-founder. Did you know Scott from before, or was it just someone that you happened to find as you were working through this project? Because a lot of the times, I mean, I would say 90% of the times when I meet entrepreneurs who've had co-founders or partners, it usually goes like it doesn't. I mean, one reason or another, it doesn't work out.
Mhm.
What has, I mean, what's your perspective on this? Like, um, how is it? I mean, I'm assuming it's working for you. Like, what is it that? How are you making it work?
So I've had both. I've had business partners in the past that haven't really worked out. So I get it. Um, I think the benefit for Scott and I mentioned I met him because he was the first retailer to carry my original game. So
Okay.
we met kind of as a business relationship first. So we kind of understood each other's strengths on a business level before we ever, you know, decided to work together. And then we actually, you know, became friends. So it was like business relationship first, established, trust and respect for each other, then became friends and just, build deeper trust, I'll say. Um, and then decided to be business partners. And so I think going that way, a lot of times I think you'll see where it's like you're friends and then decide to be business partners. And that can sometimes lead to difficult situations because you haven't worked together before. And I think
Mm,
it's a tough environment, business in general. And so,
mm.
yeah, I mean, for us, we get along great, and I think we kind of have unique skill sets that complement each other. I'm maybe a little more on the operation side. He's maybe a little more on the kind of the front end, marketing, and creative side of things. And so I think we just kind of complement each other well.
I think that makes a lot of sense. If you have worked with someone, you know at least if they're trustworthy, and number two, their work ethic, right? Like they're not just going to
Hmm.
leave in the middle of things.
Right.
Um, in every entrepreneur journey, there's always failures, mistakes, lessons learned. What has been like, I mean, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, so maybe you can share maybe your general mistakes, or if you want to share something specific related to this business, what has been a big lesson that you've learned, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, so one comes to mind. There's a product that we tried launching, as actually it was Scott and I, and we had a relationship with this gentleman who's very wealthy, successful businessman, and he had a relationship with a famous YouTuber, and this YouTuber had millions of followers on every channel, and he was like, "Hey, we should come up with a game for the YouTuber to kind of help, for them to kind of be the marketing angle to it." And so we did, and it was a disaster. Um, I think not starting with like product first principles. So I, I say this a lot to other entrepreneurs, like if the product is amazing, everything else will kind of work itself out. You have to do those still, and you still have to sell it and market it and everything. But ultimately, if the customer gets it and enjoys the product and the experience, like that's going to win out at the end of the day, versus if you had really great marketing and the product sucks,
Hmm.
and then that's just going to be, this death spiral ultimately.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of what it was. I mean, I think we built a good product, but it wasn't the best thing that we've ever done because we were trying to just create something so specific for this person.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, the business model was that we were going to have the YouTuber be the marketing engine,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't really engage. And so, they're busy making
Hmm.
videos and doing other things, and they weren't really interested in selling the product. And it was like, well, that all kind of starts to break down when you have an okay product with no marketing. Like that's
Hmm.
kind of a disaster scenario. So I think, just bringing that full circle, make an amazing product, whatever it is, or service, just have that be amazing. And then everything else will kind of fall in line.
So you are so you're of the thought that you have to start with the product, have an amazing product, and then go out and do good marketing.
100%.
Now I'm going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in a word or a sentence or so. So the first one is one book recommendation for entrepreneurs and why?
I loved Shoe Dog. It's the book about Phil Knight and the story of Nike. Um, Maybe it's a little cliche, I don't know, but that one to me was just uh, I'm a fan of Nike. I grew up wearing Nikes and Air Jordans and still do. And also just, yeah, his background, his story, and, creating what he did with Nike. I just find it fascinating and the way the story was written. I think it's such a good entrepreneurial story that was told, and you can glean so many insights from it just by the storytelling versus, let's say, a book about entrepreneurship. It's like just read that and you'll understand what it takes to be a good entrepreneur. So that's one that comes to mind.
No, that's a great choice. Um, an innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about.
There's a company called Frost Buddy that I am just kind of friends with the founder on LinkedIn, and he's very active on social media. And I've kind of witnessed this journey from it's basically like a competitor to the Stanley Cup mugs, and I just have been very impressed with what they've built and watching from afar. So that's one that comes to mind is this company called Frost Buddy.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
I mean, if you're not using ChatGPT, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. Yeah, I mean, we're one of the many millions of people out there that are implementing AI into their workflows, and just from different various aspects that you can take advantage of AI, and writing sales letters or marketing letters, or marketing emails and things like that. It's saved a ton of time. Even I'm starting to use it for investor letters. So it's a really valuable tool. So that one is an easy answer.
It saves so much time and now money also. Like it's
Hmm.
you can create so many things. Another startup or business that you think is currently doing great things.
That's kind of the same as like that Frost Buddy question. I'm just going to kind of say that one again. I've just
Okay.
been impressed with what they're doing.
Um, a peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you.
Um, I really, I've always liked Richard Branson, just kind of the
Hmm.
way that he's gone about his businesses. He doesn't take life too seriously, and always has a very positive attitude, gives back and is very valuable. He's very generous with his time. I've read a couple of his books, and I just I think he's a great human being as well as a great entrepreneur, and so that's one that comes to mind.
Awesome. And I think he's also created a great lifestyle. Like he lives on an island and I guess
Yeah,
manages his
right,
business remotely. And
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
he's windsurfing down in Necker Island, and you know, seems to be doing it right.
Have you ever been to Necker? I mean, I
I
know a lot
haven't.
of people go
No.
visit him.
Yeah, I would like to. If he's listening, I'd love an invite.
Final question. Best business advice that you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Um, I would say to other entrepreneurs, one that I talk to a lot of kind of aspiring entrepreneurs, and it's like they want to just talk about their product nonstop without actually doing anything. They're
Hmm.
like playing entrepreneur as opposed to being an entrepreneur. And my recommendation is get started. Like, I mean, just go put something out there for people to beat up and respond to, and build the website, sell one item of what you're trying to do, and get that real world feedback. And so it's really just to get going. Stop talking about it and do it. Just do
Yeah,
it. Phil would say.
just yeah. And it's so, I mean, it gives you so much energy when when you make your first sale, right? Like up
Hmm.
until that time, everything is an idea, but the moment you make your first sale and you sell something, it's like everything becomes real, and you're like, okay, I've created something or I've made something
Yeah.
that other people,
Someone
somebody has
someone
actually
took
paid for.
money out of their wallet to pay me for that product,
Yeah,
and it's a yeah, it's
great.
it's the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, every once in a while, we get emails, or I'll even like see a product I created out in the wild. That's probably the coolest thing, where you're just walking by a park and you happen to see it. But if you ever get that kind of email of someone saying, "This is my favorite game," or "We played this for 3 hours," or whatever, it's the most rewarding part of my job by far.
Yeah, yeah. You made a difference
Yeah.
to other people's lives. Well, Tim, thank you so much again for sharing your story. Those were all the questions I had. If anybody wants to check out Paddlesmash, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, check out our website, paddlesmash.com. Regardless of where you're watching this at, it's probably available in your local market. So either via our website or on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you so much again for your time, for sharing your story, and really, really appreciate your time and wish you all the very best.
Thank you for having me.